Hey everybody, Ash here with Gents. Today I'm coming at you with my 10 choices for niche fragrances for spring of this year. Yeah, it's already summer, but I didn't make this video while it was spring, so I'm doing it now. That way I can go ahead and do my summer designer and niche lists, even though those are gonna be a little bit late too. So I want to apologize to you guys that this is coming out late and that the summer videos are going to be late, because a lot of people do those summer videos technically toward the end of spring. That way they have them ready to go when it is summer. But it is what it is. Can't go back in time. But that could actually be good for you here, or maybe more interesting, because these are the fragrances that I actually wore in spring. So a lot of times when we make these lists for specific seasons, it's what we think we're going to want to wear, or it's things that we're looking forward to wearing. And then when the actual season happens, maybe they don't actually end up being the things that you wear. So for example, you could get tired of a fragrance and just not wear it, even though it was on your list, or you could pick up a new fragrance and really like it and wear it more than any other fragrance during the spring, but because, or summer or winter or whatever, but because you didn't have that fragrance when you shot the list video, it's not actually on there, even though it was your most worn. And I can tell you guys beyond a shadow of a doubt that the fragrances here, not all of these would have been in the list had I made it before the season. Some of these would have not been on here. They probably would have been ranked differently. Other fragrances that aren't on here would have made it, so it would be a totally different list. So with all that out of the way, let's just go ahead and jump into this list. My 10 niche fragrances for spring 2019. I'm gonna try not to take too much time on each one of these fragrances, and some of these would be considered more of like a summer fragrance, but when it started to heat up here, you know, toward the end of spring or the middle into the end of spring, it got really hot. So I started reaching for fragrances that are more summer type scents. So you're gonna see a little bit of a discrepancy there. Some of these are going to be more of what you would consider a springtime fragrance, and others may be a little more summery. So first up, number 10 is from the Merchant of Venice. It is Venetian Blue. There's also a newer release of this, Venetian Blue Intense, I believe, and I don't have that one, haven't smelled that one. This one has apple, moss, birch, bergamot, and lemon. And this one, if you look it up on Fragrantica, gets compared to Creed Aventus. And just forewarning you here, Creed Aventus not on this list. I'm not wearing Creed Aventus this year. That was one of my resolutions for this year, but I did wear this one. Now, just to let you guys know, in my opinion, this is not a clone of Creed Aventus. It's really not that similar. Like if you do a side-by-side comparison or something, Creed Aventus does not smell like this. This does not smell like Creed Aventus. So the main things that Aventus are known for is the juicy pineapple and the smoky birch. Neither one of those are in here. This has more of a fizzy lemon and apple combo off the top, and that provides the main sweetness in the scent that sits over top a woody and musky base. Also, this is not an official note, but this smells like it has juniper in it, as a really strong gin note to my nose. So while this does get marked on Fragrantica as being similar to Aventus, I don't at all think that it's an Aventus clone. Now, if you wanted to say it's in like the extended family of Aventus, the same way that maybe Mancera Cedrat Bois would be considered, then sure. You could maybe lump this in that way as a very extended member of that family. Also, maybe in the same way that you might say Bond Number 9 Scent of Peace for Him is similar to Aventus. It's really not, but there are some things that you could pick out here or there and say, well, this kind of smells like Aventus and maybe this does. Sure, but it's not a clone. And one more thing about that fragrance, don't go too heavy on it. One more thing about that scent, Venetian Blue, don't spray it on too heavily. That is one of the very few fragrances out there that kind of gives me a headache. So if I do more than 2 or 3 sprays with Venetian Blue, it starts to hurt right between my eyes, and it's not pleasant at all. So that's one that I go light with, 2 sprays, and I'm done. Up next, number 9, Jardin du Poète by Eau d'Italie. So this is one that I first found out about from Steven at Redolescence back years ago. He had included this on, I think, a spring niche list like I'm doing here, and that's where I first heard of it. So I think maybe it was a couple years ago, I had an opportunity to pick this up for cheap, And I did. This one has basil, bitter orange, grapefruit, angelica, and cypress as some of the notes. This is herbal, refreshing, very green, and like the name entails, it's supposed to smell like walking through a garden, or the garden of the poet, or the poet's garden. It's the same thing. This one is citrusy, bitter, aquatic, like I said, herbal, very green. This one sometimes gets lumped into the Hermes Jardin line as smelling like something out of that line. Now, I don't think this smells exactly like any of those fragrances, but you definitely could take this and kind of slot it in there and it wouldn't be out of place. And in actuality, it's got a little bit of a similarity to L'Odyssée by Issey Miyake. Not the exact same, but if you smell these side by side, you can definitely pick out similarities between the two. And as far as niche fragrances go, this one's actually really affordable. For this size, which is a 100 ml bottle, I believe it runs you $140 retail. Now, while that's definitely not cheap, as far as niche fragrances go at retail, it is. Sometimes herbal green fragrances don't work on me at all, but this one does. Off my skin, this smells fantastic, and I really like wearing this on warmer spring and sometimes summer days. This is the type of fragrance that I would spray on if I was going to wear like a linen button-up, you know, go with something that's not exactly casual but isn't really formal. This works great. Issue with this one is going to be the performance. For me, it's below average with both longevity and sillage. This is an eau de toilette. It is not an eau de parfum or parfum concentration. So be aware going in, if you do purchase this, that it's not really a powerhouse fragrance. That being said though, while this does last, it makes me happy. I love catching whiffs of it. Number 9. Jardin du Poète. Number 8 is Mancera, one that some people consider more of a summertime fragrance. It is this one, Lemon Lime. Yes, lemon lime with an N, not lemon lime like Sprite. Lemon, lavender, and orange are some of the main notes here. This one goes on smelling like lemon candy to me. So a little bit like a lemon drop or a lemon head. It smells like candy. And it can come across a little bit dense, a little bit thick, because the lemon here is not, to me anyway, like a super realistic, fresh, juicy lemon. It's more of like a syrupy, sweet lemon. That being said though, smells really, really nice, and my wife loves this one too. As with most Manceras, I get really good performance, great projection, great longevity, so this is almost like the opposite of the last fragrance, at least in terms of the performance. The lemon here rides over top a base of lavender, moss, and musk. And then you've got a little bit of amber in the mid, which helps add to that sweetness and that dense kind of feeling that the lemon has in the opening. So that is number 8, Mancera Lemon Lime. Gonna take me to number 7, which is an Olfactive Studio. Again, another fragrance that some people out there consider summer fragrance. Well, summer and spring, I guess. But it is this one, Still Life. There's also a flanker to this called Still Life in Rio, which is also great, and I own that one as well. Some of the main notes here are yuzu, pink pepper, and rum. This one has a fantastic yuzu note off the top that mixes with that spicy pepper, and then that boozy sweet rum kind of just wraps everything together. It does smell really nice. I've got to say, this one of my favorites to just smell on its own. There are also some woods and elemi in the dry down that help add more of a backbone to the fragrance and give it a little more depth. It can come across as a little bit of a citrusy tropical drink, almost like if you were at the beach and had a rum tropical drink. It's really refreshing, a little bit dense at times, but just smells fantastic in warm weather. So like I said, some of you out there are gonna consider this more of a summertime fragrance, but for me, when it started to heat up in the spring, you know, toward the last month or so of spring, I reached for this one a lot. There is a drawback here though, and that's the same as with Jardin du Poète. That's the performance. Performance for Still Life is not great. It turns soft off my skin pretty early on. Gonna take me to number 6. This is one that I've used a bunch over the years, just a ton, and it's always ranked really highly on my spring lists. This year, I kind of went a little bit of a different route. I tried not to wear things as much as I had in the past, you know, some of the heavy hitters that I always reach for. So that's why this one is a little bit lower, and the next one is a little bit lower than it would usually be. So number 6, Bleecker Street by Bond Number 9. This one has cedar suede, blueberry, oak moss, and violet leaf as some of the main notes. And this is one that I have worn just extensively since I first got it years ago. This one is very green, grassy, a little bit watery, and at times smells like a freshly mown lawn. The blueberry to me is a little bit soft. It doesn't come across super strongly. Like if you look on Fragrantica, the blueberry note is ranked really highly. Lots of people talk about that blueberry. But to me, it's more that green, grassy, watery, very springtime kind of feeling that I get from it that I remember the most. Now the blueberry is there, I can pick it up, but to me, it's a little bit of a softer note, at least in comparison to those green notes. Dries down with woods, suede, and moss. This one for me is just one of my springtime loves. I intentionally, like I said, had to tell myself, you know, don't reach for that one, go for something new. And that's why it's a little bit lower this year. Number 5, same thing, same deal. Didn't reach for it as much, and that was intentional. And it's this one, Creed Green Irish Tweed. This is one of my all-time favorites. Like if I made a list of top 5 or top 10 favorite fragrances of all time, this would be on there. I'm not sure exactly where it would place. I'd have to give a lot of thought to that, but it'd be on there. Violet leaf, ambergris, lemon verbena. Those are some of the main notes here. I don't want to talk about this one too much because I've talked about it so much on the channel, and so many other people on YouTube, on fragrance sites, blogs, whatever, have spoken about this fragrance over the years. It does have a similarity to Davidoff Cool Water, but this one came first. And I've got to say that just because there's always at least one guy in the comments who wants to call me out and say Green Irish Tweed copied Cool Water, blah, blah, blah. This actually came out first by a few years. You can look that up if you want. Type it into Google, type it into Fragrantica, whatever you want to do. This one technically came first. Always described as a walk through an Irish countryside. That's the blurb that Creed came up with, but we're still gonna go with it. This one is classy, it's masculine, it's got kind of a throwback, gentlemanly feel to it. It's very green, it's just a fantastic fragrance. Like I said, don't want to talk about this too much because I've done probably like an hour of Green Irish Tweed through all my videos, maybe longer, but yeah, Green Irish Tweed. Gonna take me to number 4, Thomas Cosmala Tonic Fair. This one has a bunch of citrus. It's got bergamot, lime, and lemon. It has mint, it's got oak moss, and as well, a bit of vetiver. Now this one to me comes across like a muddled mint, like if you took mint leaves, you muddled those up, along with a very bitter oak moss and citrus rind combination. The vetiver here is very dry. It doesn't come across smelling like a very green, fresh vetiver. It's very dry. And to me, it's just kind of an interesting twist on what I would normally wear in springtime, whether that's the cooler or the warmer months of spring. Because citrus, a lot of times, especially when you get a big citrus combo, like lime, lemon, orange, grapefruit, bergamot, which all of those aren't in here. I'm just saying when you get a combination of any of those notes, it's usually gonna be something very fresh. And a lot of times it's gonna go kind of an aquatic route or a very sweet route. And neither of those are true here. Off my skin, like I said, this is very much like a bitter rind of the citrus. It's not like the juice, it's not very fresh, it's not uplifting. It's a little bit of a twist on what I would normally wear. And that's why I went with this one. Now, this is not gonna be for everybody because a lot of people are not going to appreciate that. They're not gonna like that bitter feeling, the more, green side of those notes, but I really like it. So that's why I went with this one. I actually wore it a lot. It kind of became like a grab and go fragrance that I would just pick it up and spritz it on and head out the door. Number 4, Tonic Fair. Gonna take me to number 3. This one is one that a lot of people would actually consider more of a fall fragrance, but I actually wore it a lot. Really like it. This is my second bottle. It is Timbuktu from L'Artisan Parfumé. Yeah, it just smells fantastic, even just from the atomizer. Vetiver, incense, papyrus, mango, and myrrh. Some of the notes here. Yeah, hearing those notes, you're probably thinking doesn't really sound like a spring fragrance, but you can make this work. This one also is one that a lot of maybe people that aren't used to niche fragrances may not appreciate a lot at first. But if you give it a little time, this should grow on you. This is fantastic stuff. One of the best from this house, period. There's a smoky, spiced incense that you can smell pretty much right away, and then a very dry, grassy vetiver underneath that. It can come across a little bit sharp initially, but let it dry down a little bit, and this thing really starts to shine. There's a resinous myrrh that comes out, a little bit of sweetness from the fruit, and touches of greenery throughout. As it dries down, that vetiver that can come across a little bit sharp initially mellows out, and then all the notes just really meld together, and they really just work together in harmony. Nothing here is out of place. It doesn't seem like one note is, way too strong. Everything is just balanced. This is one, again, that I do actually prefer more in the cooler parts of spring, the cooler days of spring, not when it gets really, really hot. So this is one that I wear kind of at the beginning of spring, and then once it heads into fall, I pick this up again. It's not one that I wear in winter. It's not one that I wear in summer. This one is one that I actually get really good performance from. Projection, really good. Longevity, really good. No complaints there. And you can usually pick this up at discounters for a really good price, at least as far as niche fragrances are concerned, especially if you don't mind getting a tester. A lot of times, L'Artisan fragrances, you can pick up testers of those from FragranceNet and other discounters for 50 bucks or so. So that is number 3, Timbuktu. Number 2 is a fragrance that is not super easily found on discounters anymore, at least in the US. It's one that George from the Fragrance Apprentice actually really likes, and I believe Bradley from Triple Link really liked as well. It is this one, Duetto Sitapur. I've had this one for a while. I actually got this from Notino back when Notino existed in the US. Rest in peace, Notino. I have not seen this pop up on FragranceNet, Fragrance X, or any of the other typical discounters that I would use in the US. So this one, not as easy to find as it used to be. This used to be available on Notino for a good price, like most things were on that website. This has vetiver, grapefruit, cedar, elemi, and violet leaf as some of the main notes. Now you may find a similarity in the initial opening of this fragrance to Tom Ford Gray Vetiver. Just the way the citrus and the clean vetiver in the opening here mixes together does remind me a bit of that fragrance. Now this is definitely not the exact same as that scent, but if you wanted to say Sitapur is a niche twist on Gray Vetiver, I wouldn't argue with you. One of the things I do want to highlight about this fragrance is the violet leaf. I actually get a bunch of violet leaf as this dries down. And the violet leaf in this fragrance reminds me a little bit of the violet leaf that's added to a lot of scents that have a leather note. So the violet a lot of times kind of accompanies that leather note in a number of fragrances, for example, Dior Fahrenheit. Now I'm not saying this smells like Dior Fahrenheit, but I'm saying the violet there, the way it comes across with the leather in Fahrenheit, I pick up similarities to that in here. And this does not have a gasoline accord or anything like that, like Fahrenheit does. I'm just saying the violet leaf here, you can pick it up and it may remind you a little bit of some of those types of scents, which to me does kind of an interesting twist. To some people, I would say that's going to turn them off. That violet mixing with the vetiver, some people are going to smell that and be like, no, that's not for me. But when I smell it, it makes it a little more interesting, a little more intriguing, and that's why I enjoy this one. It essentially is your clean, green, springtime vetiver type scent, but with a twist. And there are a bunch of woods and resins and spices that are in the mid and dry down of that fragrance as well. I just wanted to highlight that violet leaf and how it comes across to me. That's gonna take me to the number one fragrance that I wore in spring of 2019, niche-wise. It is a Creed fragrance. Again, I'm not wearing Creed Aventus, so it's not that one. It is this one, Himalaya. This one has notes of musk, sandalwood, bergamot, grapefruit, and ambergris. And this is a Creed fragrance that is not really one of their most popular scents. It's not that it's unpopular, but it doesn't really get talked about all that much, and it's not really held in a high esteem. It's usually kind of a forgotten one where people will say, oh, Himalaya, it's okay. And that's pretty much always how people react, it seems like. You know, you've got Green Irish Tweed, Silver Mountain Water, Aventus. Those fragrances are held in a very high esteem, talked about all the time. This one, kind of a throwaway. Or that's the way that I view how most people view this one. Now, it is a little bit basic, I guess you could say. It's not like there's, you know, a ton of notes. It's not like it's a super complicated scent, and it does have some similarities to Paco Rabanne XS. So if you're looking for niche fragrances that are maybe highly complex, that have a lot of things going on, I could understand why this one may not appeal to you as much. All that said, I love this one. I can't help it. I really, really, really like it. It has a metallic feeling to it. When you smell it, it just has that metallic briskness. It's soapy. It's got a ton of white musk in there. It's clean, easy to wear. It's just a great fragrance in my opinion, even though it's simple, even though it's a little basic. Yeah, that clean musk, the citrus, the creamy sandalwood, and that classic Creed ambergris just combine to make an easy to wear, great smelling, basic fragrance. Like Paco Rabanne XS, only with far superior ingredient quality. Creed Himalaya. That was my number one. I wore it a ton. I mean, it was just, I've got a couple bottles back here. Every time, almost, that I was grabbing something just to spray it on and go, kind of like with the Cosmola. I was reaching for Himalaya. And when I was just going to the office, Himalaya. Hanging out at the house, Himalaya. I wore it a ton this year. Safe fragrance, clean, soapy, musky, metallic, brisk. Good stuff. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me, my 10 most worn niche fragrances spring 2019. So now that I have that one done, along with the designer spring 2019, I can do the summer 2019. And those are basically gonna be, hey, this is what I'm wearing right now since it's in summer. All right, guys, I want to apologize again for getting this out so late. Be on the lookout for those summer lists. Hopefully those will be dropping before too long. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for sticking with me. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time.